Hey everybody out there, it is me again. Um, yeah, I am just, um, sorry, today I'm a little foggy and a little cloudy. Um, Thought I should share that with you guys. So, I know we've done a couple videos now, and I guess essentially what my goal is to try to give you like kind of like an all around, like a 360 view of everything that's going on with me, um, and just helping you to kind of understand how everything comes together and how all those different things coming together have to do with who I am today. Um, so I wanted to show you, and I'm not sure if you can tell, normally like my cheeks kind of stick out more. They're a little bit more prominent in videos. Today, you'll notice that my face down here looks a little bit more square. The reason for that is I ate something that I'm allergic to. I have a few food allergies. Sorry, I'm always looking down here at the screen, and I should probably be looking up at you guys. I have a few food allergies. Those few food allergies are quite vast, and it's been kind of over the course of a few years that it's taken me to like figure out that I even have food allergies, And I'm pretty sure for a lot of people out there, you'll realize that you don't feel well very frequently, or something feels like amiss and you can't figure out what it is. And that's essentially what happened to me. Going into a little bit of the backstory, you know me, I kind of switch around a little bit, but I'll go into a little of the backstory, which was probably like 10 to 12 years ago. I started just having like really bad anxiety and depression, and I could never figure out what was going on with me. Um, and what I found was, and I remember the day that it was most poignant, that it really kind of clicked to me that it might be a food allergy. So I was hanging out with some of my friends at my friend Andre's house, and we had just had like a big meal, and I literally went to the bathroom and I was looking at myself in the mirror and I was thinking, Jesus, like I feel really dizzy. I don't feel good. Um, I feel almost like, I think the effect they call it is the fishbowl effect, which literally feels like someone put a fishbowl on your head and you can't think. You're just like really cloudy. And when people say something to you, it's almost like you're listening at the bottom of the fishbowl, like you're kind of trying to pick it up and understand it. Um, and I realized in that moment, I was like, well, okay, what could it be? And funny enough, thinking about this, I think that was the first time that I actually ever sat down and thought like, wow, I wonder if I should start thinking about things a little bit more deeply, trying to figure out if there's like an underlying meaning of things. And what I came to realize was I was like, maybe this is food related. And so I have a really great friend, one of my best friends for years. She's a saint. She's put up with me through so much shit. Her name is Amy. She's always like on this path of like spiritual and physical and mental healing. And I went to visit her in her house, and her house is always like full of like great vitamins and minerals, and she's always on the like latest edge of, or the leading edge of like whatever physical science people are getting into that can help people get better. And so I remember she was starting to do kind of like a raw food thing, a raw food diet. And she was like, look, you should give it a try with me. You'll do the raw food diet. When you get through onto the other end, you'll be able to figure out like if there's anything going on. Because what happens is you essentially take everything except for leafy greens out of your diet, and then you start slowly like incorporating things, and that helps you to kind of like weed out what you are allergic to, because as you put things into your diet, if you're allergic to them, you'll be able to tell, like you'll be able to tell if you start feeling congested or if you feel sluggish, or you'll just be able to figure out what's going on with your body. So we did it, and one of the things that I found or a few things that I found were like wheat, soy, dairy, some nuts, and it was just really interesting. And it's funny because um, it's a really lonely battle, like figuring out later in life that you have food-based allergies, and especially if your circle of friends are not very open, or they don't understand all those different factors. um, and I mean, typically they say if you come from like not the highest socioeconomic tier, if you're from one of the lower ones, food-based allergies really aren't something that people think about, because you're more about survival. So if that's what your pocket of friends is in, then it's a little bit more challenging, because when you tell people stuff like, hey, I can't have soy, they're like, that is the stupidest thing. Or if you're like, oh, hey, yeah, I'm allergic to dairy, they're like, ah ha 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 ha, allergies, yeah, like that's a real thing. But the truth of the matter is, for somebody that suffers with food allergies, like when your body is, I call it redlining. I know there's a topic, or sorry, there's a word for it, or a phrase for it. I think it's like, no, I can't remember. I'll tell you guys in another video. But when your body is in what I call this red line, like literally, you feel exhausted. You feel exhausted, your body feels exhausted. Typically, like your neck and your shoulders and the back of your head are like burning. Sometimes you have migraines, you feel super sluggish. Um, Sometimes you have breathing problems, you feel overexerted, like just terribly overexerted. It feels like you've been running like track and field for like 20 years, and now you finally sat down and you're trying to catch your breath and just feel better. And it can be a lonely battle, because people that don't have food-based allergies don't understand what it's like. And for you, it's just like, I mean, more than anything else, sometimes it's depressing, because it literally feels like it's you feeling a certain way, and you're trying to explain to other people that you feel a certain way, and no one understands it. And I say that because it also kind of plays into um, you, um, what am I trying to say? Sorry, again, the cloudiness. It plays into like kind of depression. Like it starts to wear on you after a while, feeling like you don't feel good when you eat things, or that eating in general is a minefield, and you're trying to figure out what you're allergic to, if there are things that you're eating that you're allergic to, and that sort of thing. And it's like a struggle, it's a battle every time, for everybody else. And I remember when I didn't know that I had these. I mean, someone would say, hey, let's go out to this place for lunch or for dinner, and it's like, okay, no problem, you get in the car and you go. Or the world is your oyster. People think, oh, what restaurant do you want to go to? And anyone can go to any restaurant, and all of a sudden you go from that to like literally having to call ahead of time and figure out what's on the menu, and figure out what you can eat and what you can't eat. And that's what I do. I mean, I know some people with allergens will literally go to the restaurant and sit and talk to the person, their waiter or the manager of the restaurant, and try to figure out what's going on and what's good and what's bad and what they can and can't eat. And the truth of the matter is, it's like very exhausting. And not only is it exhausting, but it's annoying to your friends, because typically, and your family or your loved ones, because typically they're hungry and they just want to eat. And you're like asking a million and one questions, not because you want to be annoying, but because you know that if you eat something that you're not supposed to eat, you're going to be out. You're going to be out for the count for like days on end. Sometimes it takes me 3 or 4 days just to feel better. Um, and the other thing is typically when I eat stuff that I'm allergic to, like I've been realizing recently, it's really hard for me to like stay awake. Like my body goes into like, I just become like super exhausted, like really, really, really exhausted when I eat something that I'm allergic to. And it's hard for me to keep myself awake. And then I go to sleep and I will literally sleep for like 12 hours. And when I wake up, I still feel exhausted. It's really, it's draining, you know? So, yeah, I say all that to say, you know, not only is it like physically taxing, but mentally, it really messes with your head, you know? And in this process, which, you know, we've all talked about my process of wanting to feel better and feel like a better version of myself. Um, Sometimes eating things that I'm allergic to, they're a setback. They set me back. They literally make me feel like, oh my gosh, you know, things aren't right and you don't feel good. And I mean, you can go from having a clear, good mental space to literally like having one meal and then for days you're like completely off. You're off of it and you don't feel well. Um, Sorry, I will say, um, just kind of jumping topics, I look down at myself and I'm not looking at the camera, I'm looking at me. But one of the things that I was gonna do is show you guys what it looks like when I get ready. Not a lot of men, well, I think there's like a fair amount of men, especially now, that wear makeup, you know? Um, and I was gonna show you guys kind of what it looks like for me to put some on. I will get into that, but let me just kind of finish up the thing with the food allergies. Anyway, so I will say the other thing that makes food allergies really hard is there's no cure for them. The only thing that you can do is keep yourself away from them. And the more exposure you have to your food-based allergies, the closer you get to anaphylaxis, which, as many of you know, is highly deadly. You know, like literally your airway will close off. You won't be able to breathe. Your body goes into shock and like stiffens up. It gets really bad. I am lucky enough that I have not gotten to that point yet. My allergist, I do have an allergist, has asked me to carry around um, a little. It's like an EpiPen, but it's like a new aged EpiPen from a new company. And essentially, what it does is you like, if I were to hit anaphylaxis, anybody could pick it up. The little thing actually talks to you and it takes you step by step on how to use it. You have to use it, and then immediately after using it, you have to go to the hospital. So hopefully, I never have to use that thing. Um, what I've been doing is just trying to kind of balance out like the allergens that I eat. I try to eat them like very few and very far between. Typically, when I eat them, my face will swell out like this. Like it looks kind of more boxy than it does like a little more sunken in down here, and my cheeks are a little bit more defined. My eyes swell out. You start seeing these dark circles like this, and like this darkness here. My skin complexion looks like a little like reddish and muddled. I get a lot of like, I don't know, see, I keep touching my nose. I'm having like a little bit of a sinus thing going on. Um, and you know, it's really, it's a lot. It's a lot to deal with. So again, I just wanted to give you guys that little bit because I just wanted to kind of explain, I guess, one of the things that caused me a little bit of a setback, you know, because like I was saying, no matter how far you get in, you know, feeling well mentally, all it'll take is one of these episodes to kind of push you back where you don't feel as heightened, you know, this heightened sense of self. Um, so, yeah, I guess reiterating again, yeah, there is no real cure. Um, and it's just a challenge, you know? Like right now, I could literally just go like lay on my couch for hours just to feel better because I don't really feel particularly good right now. Um, and it was hard um, when I was working like a full-time 9 to 5 in an office. Now I'm kind of working on my own. But when I was in an office, it was like, oh God, like you have to sit there all day not feeling well, trying to figure out what's going on with you or, you know, how you feel, etc. And it's rough, man. It's a really, really rough one. Um, yeah, so um, the other reason that I wanted to share that with you guys is I think I'm gonna make it my goal to try and help people with their food allergies. I haven't figured out how I'm gonna do it exactly. I just know that as somebody who's already struggling with a lot of other issues, and then also having food allergies on top of it, it's like another layer, And I've I've frequently thought like if there was a way for me to like talk to people about it or help them to figure out that food allergies are a real thing and it could be one of the things that are inhibiting you in your life, I think that that could be like beneficial to a lot of people out there, especially children. And the funny thing is, like a lot of people will say, well, oh yeah, just go get tested for food allergies and you'll be able to figure out what's wrong with you. Well, unfortunately, folks out there, those food allergy tests are not always accurate. Like, I I know that I'm allergic to soy. I can feel it when I've had something with soy. Like literally, if I go to your house and you make something with vegetable oil, which has soy in it, if you make something with soy sauce, if you use something that has vegetable protein in it, which is typically soy, I can, within like eating it, within probably like 10 minutes of eating it, I can tell right away that I've had something that I'm allergic to. Typically, like, again, it feels like that fishbowl thing where it feels like someone put a fishbowl on your head. But I mean, right away. And then you start feeling like a little bit of anxiety. Sometimes before the fishbowl thing picks up, like all of a sudden out of nowhere, your chest feels really tight and you're like, oh my God, like something doesn't feel good. I don't know what it is. And it just takes, sorry, really, really nasal. It just takes a moment of you like, feeling that to really recognize like, oh crap, like something's not right, something's not good. And so, um, I guess it would probably be helpful to give you guys a little bit of information, like at least in the short term, if I can't figure everything out, maybe I can give you guys like the bigger allergens so you can figure out what it was. Sorry, I got sidetracked as I typically do, digressing a little bit. Food-based allergy tests don't always work. I know that I'm allergic to soy. I told you how I know that I'm allergic to soy. I have gone in and taken that food-based allergy test, and literally I know within like probably, or I think it's like a couple of days, 3 or 4 days, they'll get back to you and tell you what you're allergic to, and they never show that I'm allergic to soy, and I know that I'm allergic to soy. Alternately, like when I eat cashews, literally within seconds of eating cashews, my mouth feels like I have burning shards of glass inside, just rubbing all over everything. It is like, it literally feels like you're chewing on burning shards of glass, which my allergist has said, oh, that means you're allergic to it. But when we take the allergen test, cashews don't show up. Same thing with pistachios. Pistachios, I'm sure out of all the nuts, is probably one of the ones that'll give me anaphylaxis. I literally, like, my throat starts to close up when I have it. And when I take the allergen test, that doesn't come up either. Meanwhile, on the flip side, stuff like blueberries show up, and I eat blueberries all the time and I feel nothing. So it could be like maybe there's like a slight allergy to them and I just don't know about it, but you know, it kind of is what it is. So I say that to say one of your safest bets, instead of going and taking one of those food-based allergies, is to do something like a raw food diet or a Whole30 where you pull everything out of your diet. And then slowly reintroduce things, and you can figure out on your own what you're allergic to. Like as you're reintroducing things, and you do a new thing every day, so you're on nothing but greens, and then you start putting in some fruits, right? And you go one fruit, not like every fruit in one day. Literally, you introduce like one fruit in a day, right? And you see how your body feels. If there's no reaction, then the next day you do another fruit, and the next day you do another fruit. And then you move out of that, and then you start doing nuts and going through the nuts, and then after that, then you'll start doing like some other vegetables, and you do like literally, you only introduce one thing per day, and you'll be able to figure out what it is that you are allergic to, and hopefully it'll make you feel a lot better. So that's one thing that you can do. The second thing that you can do, and the second thing that I think people out there can do, especially your friends and family that don't understand allergies, is that the easiest thing that you can do is buy people high quality food. If you know somebody that has a food allergen, buy them the highest quality stuff. Typically, the things that you spend a little bit of money on, vegetable oils, instead of going with like a straight olive oil or a straight coconut oil, will be full of cheap stuff like soy, right? And those are the sorts of things that will give you a reaction, you know? It's typically those things that um, all these different manufacturers and people use as fillers. Those are the things that people are typically allergic to, you know? So the same thing like dairy, like, okay, dairy, you know, arguably, well, not arguably, we are one of the only species that drink another species' breast milk, which is kind of, you take that or leave it. Some people think it's disgusting. But it is, um, you know, as people use it as a cheap filler in a lot of stuff. They also use it as a way when they have a food that is like a cheap food that has like zero, um, like benefit when it comes to vitamins and nutrients, they will put something in there like whey protein, you know, to boost the amount of protein that's in it, or they'll put soy protein in there to boost the amount of protein that's in it so it looks like it's a lot more beneficial than it is. But the truth of the matter is if you were to give those people something that is like, you know, more of a pure whole food or holistic food, they would be doing a lot better. You know what I mean? And it's easier, like, you know, if you're gonna make a dinner for somebody instead of, and you know they have allergies, and you can't figure out, well, how do I look for allergies? Instead of making them stuff like Kraft, you know, or like, not like a well crafted food, but something like, instead of making them like a bunch of boxed foods, you know, like pre-made boxed packaged stuff, you're better off like just making them a chicken breast, right? And using just easy spices on it, like salt, pepper, a little garlic powder or something like that. It's delicious and you avoid allergens. Instead of making them a box side, making them like just rice, you know, or like rice and beans, and using spices that are like just spices that you can read the bottle and you know exactly what's in there. It's just one spice. Like, you do a lot better doing that, and for the person that's eating, it makes them feel more comfortable. The same, unfortunately, can be said about restaurants. Like, if you're with somebody that has a food-based allergy, instead of taking them somewhere like one of these big box stores that are trying to get the prices of their food down so that they can sell more food to people, take them to somewhere a little bit nicer. You know what I mean? Typically, I found if you take them somewhere a little bit nicer, you can find better quality foods which don't have those fillers, you know? So for me, when I go out to eat, I've found if I go somewhere Mediterranean, they almost always use olive oil, and they don't use vegetable oil. Vegetable oil has soy. It's just a really fancy and nice way of saying soy oil. I think that when they're packaging these things, they know that people are going to be adverse to like seeing something that says soy oil, so they say vegetable oil, because you think, oh, there's probably carrots and all these different vegetables in there, and that's how they get the oil, and that's not the truth. It's normally only soy. And if I go to like a nice restaurant, like a nice Mediterranean restaurant, they'll use olive oil, and I don't have to worry about that. You know what I mean? And they won't use processed flours that have a ton of soy flour in there to like make them seem enriched, you know? They'll use just regular wheat, you know, or durum or something like that, and it's a lot healthier for you. The same can be said about like some of these, let me see, what other safe ones are there for me? I would say not Indian is normally fine for me. You just have to be careful of the oil that they use. Everything else that they use is pretty pure. When they use oil, they typically use vegetable oil, and that again is soy. So I'll typically have to call ahead of time to make sure they're not using soy oil. The same, well, actually, like I would say, if you do like European food, especially French food, they're like, they lean more on butter than they do oils, so that's typically pretty safe for me. Um, and when I say Italian, I mean like, or sorry, when I say Mediterranean, I mean like Italian and also Greek. Greek I find is more safe than Italian. Sometimes you'll find like low-end Italian places and they'll use like cheap flours that are enriched with a whole bunch of soy products, and they use vegetable oil to fry all their stuff. So you just have to be careful of it all. You know what I mean? Um, and I mean, there are some websites out there. Some companies are really good about putting their nutrition and their allergens online. So for people with food-based allergies, they can go on there, kind of research things ahead of time. And honestly, like if you are inviting a friend out to eat and you know that they have allergies, I typically, if I have a friend that I'm going out to eat with that I know has allergies, I will do the research for them so they don't have to do the research for themselves. And I'll call them up and say like, hey, I've already looked through everything and it looks like it's gonna be a safe place for you to eat. But that's not always the case. And it's a big thing. Like this whole allergen thing, I think is pretty big. It really, I feel like depressed and downtrodden and lethargic and not good when I've had something that I'm allergic to, and I'm sure that it affects other people. I also want to implore people that have children out there to like be mindful of the things that your kids eat. And what I mean by mindful isn't like, oh, I should feed them more healthy things. I think you should also just like pay attention to how your kids act when they eat certain things. Like if you know that sometimes sometimes your kid is really sluggish, you know what I mean? If you are feeding them, try and pay attention to when that is. Keep a food diary. That's something that someone has always said, or people have always told me to do, is like, oh, keep a food diary of everything that you eat and how you feel on those days that you eat them. It's another great way to figure out what things you might be allergic to. So if your kid doesn't feel well and you know that kid has had cheese crackers that day, monitor them over the course of a month. And if you find that cheese crackers is what they eat every time they don't feel good, then it'll help you figure out, well, okay, maybe it's either the wheat in those crackers or it's the cheese in those crackers. And then you can, look at the diary a little bit better. And then you find out on the days that you gave them just cheese and grapes, maybe those are the days they don't feel well. Well, there you go. You're able to figure out exactly what it is they're allergic to. But yeah, just stay knowledgeable, pay attention. I think that's the problem in our culture is I don't think we all pay attention to like what it is that we're allergic to or how our bodies feel. We just kind of eat blindly and mindlessly, and that's not always a good thing. Yeah, so I think over the course of the rest of these videos, I'll probably infuse that a little bit, and I'll try and tell you guys like when I don't feel well. Last night I ate at food from a big box store, and chances are I actually know exactly what it is. This place in particular has what's the steak called? Prime rib. And prime rib, I mean, typically steak is an easy one for me to eat. I know that it doesn't have a lot of allergens, it's just pure meat. But this place puts like something on there that has soy, and that's what bothers me. So I'll just continue to tell you when I feel bad and why I feel bad, and I will give you as much information as I can and, kind of tell you how it all fuses into just me feeling better and being a better version of myself and a healthier version of myself. So yeah, I wanted to thank all of you guys. I actually have been like a little not consistent with the videos that I do, and I think today what I'll do is I'll actually do a second video and I'll talk about some other stuff. If you have any questions, please feel free to put it down below. Yeah, stay talking to you guys. I'll talk to you guys later.